Casper Ruud breaks through, had fallen. I say fallen. This is like a compliment to him. He had fallen to 14 in the world post Barcelona, which he had won last year. I was pretty honest with Prakash on the desk at Tennis Channel this week about how he'd kind of invested in maybe researched, entertained the idea of addressing mental health again, presents itself, and said, like, I was in a pretty bad place, and this seems to be a pretty consistent thing. And if you think about time zones and being isolated and can't pass the ball in an off day, like, this all makes sense. And Jim Courier and I were talking about it on TC Live yesterday, and to our point in our episode that we had with Marty, you know, maybe it's we're just looking for affirmation of what our opinion was in that show. But yeah, if your ankle hurts, you treat it. If your brain is getting in the way of you trying to win matches and there's a way to address it, that's mental health. It's not something that is this, you know, crazy. It props to Casper Ruud, and then he addresses it. It's not surprising to me that he then goes on and performs well in big moments. If you prepare yourself for big moments and do everything you can to be ready, oftentimes preparation meets the moment. And Casper Ruud played great. I thought Jack Draper was the best player in the tournament up until about the last hour of the tournament.
Mm-hmm. He said that too. Yeah.
He was. I mean, he went through when he played Tommy Paul and beat him 2-2. I mean, Tommy just walked up to he's like, too good, man. Like, Jack Draper is quickly approaching, and I said this week on air, I don't know. He's ranked 5 now. Can you name 3 players that are playing better this year, week in and week out? No, you can't, is the answer. There's Draper and Indian Wells were like, oh, he took a rough loss in Miami. Do you remember who he lost to in Miami, JW? Rough. He just couldn't back it up. He lost to this guy, Menchik.
Menchik, yeah.
Who went on to win the tournament. Jack Draper, this was his 6th event this year. It doesn't feel like he's played so little just because he's been so relevant every week. He's entering tournaments. His backhand, he can stick cross court. He can check it down up the line to get the traffic flow back to that forehand. That forehand is an absolute monster. Now, it went a little sideways in the final. He got a little nervous, but just the action that he creates and the threat on that side, I think we're underselling how quickly he started 2024 at 61 in the world. And he a lot of people will touch the top 5 and you're like, oh, that's a fun cup of coffee. He looks like he's a top 5 player. Like, how quickly like expectation changes. He was the favorite, I thought, from every talking head that I had heard going into that match against Ruud. And I was kind of a little surprised that Ruud got through, not because I don't respect him, just because I was that impressed with Draper this week. I thought he was fantastic, and props to Casper.
Let's talk Draper first. This is clay, right? I mean, so here's a guy. He's made the semis of the U.S. Open. That was sort of his major breakthrough. Won his $1 million and got sort of that match against Sinner where he vomited. This is a guy who's been to the Wimbledon finals as a junior. We know he can play on grass. His father was the head of the LTA for 7 years. I didn't know he had this kind of play game as well. And yeah, I mean, this is someone who he was not. I can't remember who said this. He wasn't seeded at Roland Garros last year. This year, he may have his own quarter. This guy's for real. 23 years old, same age as same age as Sinner, and there's a lot of game there. There's also a lot of poise. There's just sort of a professional level. I mean, it's funny he played Casper in the final because it's not an altogether much different games, but not an altogether different approach. And did you hear what he said afterwards? He basically said, last half hour of today, you were the braver player. He knew immediately what had happened. He knew that match was a winnable match that was right there for him, and he just retreated a little bit. And to admit that on the spot, I thought was really impressive. But no, for Casper, if one of the sort of liabilities of tennis is how spread out it is, how isolating it is, the time zones, everything we've talked about that creates some of these mental health challenges. I would say that one of the virtues, one of the assets is how quickly things turn around. So you're right. I mean, he was 14. He's outside of the top 10. What's going on with this guy? He's having a hard time putting together some decent results in 2025. Whether he gave that interview about mental health, whether it was the fact that his girlfriend was there, so there was a bit of stability. He plays a great tournament, wins his first Masters 1000. And all of a sudden, this goes from struggling to Casper Ruud to, hey, wait a second. This guy has made the finals in Paris twice. He's made 3 major finals overall for his career. He's now back in the top 10. He has a Masters 1000 title. We know how solid he is, especially on clay. Why are we talking him as a contender? So, in the course of, it should be 7, but in the course of 12 days, you go from a guy outside the top 10 who's struggling to suddenly you're contending for majors again.
I think Casper, in his speech yesterday, and I'm not up to date on all the goss, but I think he said fiance yesterday.
Yeah,
so
fiance,
yeah. So I think I think we're next leveling there on the court, off the court. It's all next level for Casper. But I thought he did a great job. Obviously, his forehand, an undertold stat is that once, like in 2022, Casper overtook Rafa for most RPMs on the forehand side. So rotations per minute. So basically his spin profile is more than you'll see from anyone. So that bird's eye view where it's up above, you can't see what he's doing to manipulate the ball. So when people say he hits it huge, but then it doesn't look as big from that bird's eye view as someone who hits it flat, that thing is tumbling and it hits your racket and you kind of have to fight it off, right? You have to find the center of the racket to kind of firm it up. But that ball was jumping all over the place in Madrid. Massive, massive deal to be seeded 14 or to be seeded in the top 8 at Roland Garros. This was well timed for Casper Ruud. And then at 1-1 in that third set, they're going back and forth. They each are kind of getting looks at break points, maybe every other return game. So it's kind of this, you don't know where it's going to go. And Casper did a great job of mixing in a certain risk profile with which Jim Courier nailed in the first set because he was losing a lot of the 50-50 neutral ball rallies, right? Like he was, once it got set and the return was in play, he wasn't finding the patterns that he wanted. Started going much bigger on the forehand because he had to, because Draper, when he has 2 feet set, is just dangerous. And then he kind of really hit Ballmer's peak of like aggressive on the forehand, but then he did that like one more ball mentality to really just kind of grind out early in that third set. I thought it was just such a professional win. He didn't lose a set. We're going on about Draper. Ruud didn't lose a set before the final. And so I just think,
and then played good players. Look at Surundle. I mean, look at his draw.
He played
not
great.
A cupcake draw.
And we'll get into this after the break, real quick. But like, what does this do for Roland Garros as we look forward? Casper has been one of the best players on clay for the last 6-7 years, whatever it's been, maybe 5. And there's still a feeling of inevitability when Rafa's across and you have to get through him to win Roland Garros. I bet you that attitude changes for more than just Casper post-Madrid, post-Rome, going into Roland Garros. A lot of question marks that we'll get to. Sinner, Alcaraz, Novak, Iga. We'll get to that after the break, and we'll tell you which legend we didn't give enough credit to because they're just so good. We'll be right back.